Welcome to a fine gaming experience, everyone. I have my co-host Ice with me again.
I guess this is almost a permanent thing at this point.
I hope it continues on that way. And last time we took on the Puke, and today we will be going on to a new area to explore. We got some new armor to show off first, though, from all our efforts last time.
Hey, he's playing with his poop again.
So now we need to protect the scholars. Let's regroup at the Wildspire Wastes.
You're starting to look pretty good. The armor, the shield from the gun lance. You're going to see a lot of mismatched sets early on, but it still looks quality.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of interesting sets, and matching them can be quite odd. The Vespoid set is one of my favorite looking early sets.
Like that half hif plate. That's actually really cool.
Which the female version gets as well. And that's from killing those tiny little insects. The abilities on it is interesting. Not that great. A lot of it's kind of defensive, but the paralysis attack is the handy one. If you have a paralysis weapon early on, you can boost the efficiency of it. I like using the Honey Hunter early on just to get more honey, since it's so useful. And that little quest we did to get the Earth ore last time opened up this suit for us.
The ally set's actually very classic looking armor, and there's some really nice things about just the detail on the way it looks. Actually looks like a lot of the later armors in the game, but it's fortunately not styled after a monster.
Interesting crest on the shoulder there. And it's a very defensive set. Overall, everything is just giving you more boost to how survivable you are.
Speed sharpening is a phenomenal skill. You've seen how long it takes to sharpen your weapon. This actually reduces the number of strokes that you need to do to sharpen a weapon. So with a high level of that, sharpening can take almost no time at all.
And the Puke set looks very different on the female, oddly. Just those eye ridges are a little bit larger.
I actually think it looks better on the female overall.
The survival expert's an interesting skill. A lot of the interactable plants that you're not picking up but doing something with will start healing you. It's not something you see used too often, but it can come in handy. And the Puke set isn't the best skill-wise, but it has its uses. Now, I had put the Kulu pants on my favorite. The critical eye skill is nice, but like you were just talking about, sharpening is just too good.
Now that is a mismatched set of armor.
Very much. But adding sharpening skills is very good for this weapon. Not too much new for our little cat friend, but he does get his own set of Puke armor. Including a neat little bow for it.
One of the nice things about that bow is it does have poison element on it. It's one of the earliest ways you can start poisoning enemies. Poison does a static amount of damage. I believe it's 20 by default. Unless an enemy has resistance against it, then it's 10. However, there are skills and abilities you can get later in the game that boost both duration of poison and the amount of damage they take per tick. So it's still steady damage and can be quite handy in the early parts of the game, and surprisingly even against some later strong enemies.
Yeah, it makes your little Palico dinky attacks become very handy that way.
Status is the big thing that you can throw on top of your Palico to get that, because they're never going to outdamage you, but those statuses, especially if you're sharing a status ailment, you can help build up faster. So you're going back to the hub, and you're going to stick there as much as possible for a while, right?
Well, just while the events are going on, the canteen meals are a little better during this time up here. So I tend to use this as my launch platform during that time.
You're going to notice what the name of this quest was, the best kind of quest. You will notice, if you've never played a Capcom game before, they are very tongue-in-cheek with their humor, Especially with the translation team, they've got a real character to them, so a lot of quests have kind of meme-esque quality to them in their names. And this is an escort quest, which is why they're mockingly calling it the best kind of quest.
Got it?
Yes, I got quite a kick out of that naming myself. If you think some of my episode names are good, wait till you see some of the event quest names they have later on.
Oh, they've got some doozies.
Now this is something I'm a little disappointed on, but these are Kelby, and if you attack them directly in the head, they have a very good chance of having their horns break off, and their horns are very handy.
Their horns are actually one of the major ingredients for one of the best healing items you can get in the game. However, you did get White Liver, which is a very rare item that gives you a lot of extra points.
I believe it also counts as a canteen ingredient for us. And this episode does a very good job of showing the pros and the cons of the gun lance.
Which naturally supports its own unique ecosystem.
And again, like, I'm hitting it directly in the head there. I should be getting those horns, I think.
It's a little bit of a problem with any of the lance weapons to get a perfect aim. The wide tip on the lance actually causes a lot of problems in hitting exact points.
And even though this area is a desert, there are some beautiful water areas here.
Oh, great.
And I'm actually going to go on record in saying that Wildspire Wastes is my favorite map in the game.
It's not my favorite, but it definitely has some areas I really appreciate.
It makes sense. It's not too multi-level. That's one of my biggest problems with the forest is there are a lot of angles and levels to it, so it's hard to read maps. But I do find that one of the great things about all the maps in this game is there's a very connected feel. No matter what camp you start at, there's ways to get to other camps, there's shortcuts, hidden secrets, ledges you can only go one way on. And you should really take your time to explore. Do those exploration missions.
I believe actually next time we go back to the forest, we'll be exploring the upper reaches of it.
The fruit scattered throughout the area has a hard shell that helps retain moisture.
Mind you, this escort quest is a pretty good introduction to the area. It'll show off some of the creatures that are living here gradually. We get a good view of the areas we're going through.
One thing I am going to talk about, because you're collecting a lot of them right here, are the flash bugs. We had shown before in an episode, I believe, where you were fighting the Puke in the arena, that the flash bugs can be turned into flash pods, and the flash pods can be used to knock enemies out of the air. You can get the shot in front of them, or to blind them. They are almost as important as herbs and honey in this game. Flash pods are essential for some of the harder flying enemies.
That's where we'll find what we came for.
Always collect any little yellow bugs you see in an environment.
Well, on we go.
A lot of the insects are actually very handy for a lot of items. And if you notice me doing that little point animation, that's a big part of this game you can do as well, as have various emotes programmed in to do responses with people will see.
The gestures are great, especially if you're playing with quite often a international player. Because the servers in this, you can turn off an option and have them cross-play. You can actually play across with players from Japan and other regions where the game is. So the gestures give you a nice fluid idea of what you're trying to communicate to someone. And they will also translate whatever language is attached to the gesture into their native tongue.
Oh, dear me, a Rathian.
Ah, the Rathian.
A Rathian!
We'll be seeing a lot more of this guy. Or is it girl?
I believe Rathian's the male, but I can't remember. There are some monsters that have, well, I don't want to spoil that, but they have connections to other monsters.
You might be able to use your slinger to create some kind of noise and distractor.
Funny story, the first time I tried this, I tried shooting my slinger off to the side to distract it and hit her in the wings. Definitely got her attention.
Good luck.
Go, go, go!
I'm just going to follow his advice and GTFO. Luckily, they don't really follow you here, so...
I was going to say, luckily you do have a good weapon against the Rathian, but at this point, Rathian's a bit hard of a challenge. And this is what I was talking about with a lot of the different levels and valleys and peaks here. The Wildspire Wastes is very vast and open. And you can actually see a lot more in this area than you can in the forest just because the areas are so large and there's not a lot of foliage to block your view.
Provide the commission with valuable data. Hunter, I couldn't.
And this is just one of the intermediate areas here, but if you pay attention, there'll be lots of scatter nets growing in the top areas you can knock down.
Your absolute favorite slinger ammo.
It has a great use. I think I show off in another episode. I don't think it happens this one, sadly.
Was an enormous beast, but I am in shock over how gargantuan it really is.
Well, we are actually tracking down some information about Zora here. That is why they are here, to collect specimens and find information.
I wonder, how many years does it take for a
Even though they've been zooming in on the Wildspire Peak, there is a giant piece of Zora poop right beside it we are trying to pick up. And these are the native herbivores for this area.
An herbivore native to this region. Wait, why are they running?
They look
And if you can't tell, they're a little spooked. I actually like their defensive format. They all face each other's heads and have their tails swinging outwards.
whatever's out there. It
That
could
looks
be a
good.
danger to us too. We
Tasty
have to
goop.
Be careful. Finally.
That's one of the hints on what we're about to meet, though. And this is another important thing for the area. This is basically our flowers and whatnot we had in the first area.
We're almost there. Keep
There's
it up.
one simple rule to this game, it's click on everything. Take every item you find until they won't let you pick up any more.
Evidence is within sight. You've done a fine job, Hunter.
And these little pterodactyl guys are a little different from the usual ones we had in the first area. We really don't get to show them off that much in this episode, but in a future one, we'll really get to see them in effect.
And you're noticing too, look at this color of the scout flies is different.
Yes, they tend to glow blue around very old creatures or unique items we'll need to check out. Ah, Bharath, one of my favorite early creatures.
Piggies, it's a Bharath.
Follow me.
I still remember the first time you and I fought a Bharath together. It was quite an interesting fight.
Well, I do about as poorly dodging in this fight as I did in that one.
Oh, wow. Well, this is going to be a very interesting showdown then.
Oh, you don't know the half of it. But this weapon is a very interesting choice for fighting Bharath with. He's got a huge armored head, and if I try to hit it, all my attacks are going to deflect off. In fact, he's got a huge shell of mud protecting him that will do a similar effect. And he can shake it off into mud piles that, if I walk into, will then slow me down.
Look out. Your health is low. Keep your distance.
And that's one of the big problems I have with this weapon, is a lot of the animations are very slow, and I might see them coming, but it's also very bad for pre-programming your attacks. If you're button mashing the controller, you might find yourself doing a ton of slow, long swings, and you'll just be left wide open.
That was a good shot.
I was worried that wouldn't connect.
I will say, one of the things about Bharath that makes him rather interesting is despite being a heavily armored monster, you actually do quite well with small weapons, because you can get into those weak spots, you can easily roll out of the way of a lot of the big, easy tells. But a good block like that knocks him clean out.
He actually hit the pillar right behind me there.
Oh, is that what that was? Okay.
Yep.
I was hoping it was a perfect shield block or something.
Sadly not. One of the interesting things with all my bullets and that little laser attack I have is that they are all set damage. No matter what the enemy's defense is, if I'm hitting a special spot or armored spot, anything like that, it only does a set number. So it is one of my few attacks I can have that will actually hit him in the head.
Ooh.
Yes, that one hurt. But, as we used to say when we were playing wrestling games, I was trapped in an animation.
And unfortunately, with a lot of the big, heavy, and slow weapons in this game, you are stuck in animations very often. That's why I highly recommend going for a sword and shield to start to play. It'll give you a lot of the ideas of how to play, and it's a very good weapon for getting out of the way of trouble.
And one of the problems with this weapon as well is you have to micromanage your bullets. You have to micromanage your wyvern spears, and you have to micromanage your sharpness. So it can make a lot of micromanaging you have to keep an eye on for your weapon. If you don't reload at the right time, like I do at one point here, you'll just sit there clicking your weapon in the air.
Click, click.
Yep.
You will sometimes hope that a monster runs away. I feel like this is one of those times you'd like a breather so you're sharpening one.
That is the problem with all my big attacks, is they just eat my sharpness up like no tomorrow. My Palico is doing a good job of distracting him, at least. Ugh. This weapon has a fantastic mounting attack. You'll actually do a full burst attack, unloading your entire clip of your gun into whatever point you're on.
Spike in. No. Oh. This is the KO'd state. When you are in that state, you are vulnerable, and unfortunately, you will probably get carded at least once. Carding is the term for dying in this game, because you don't quite die so much as, well, are we going to see some carding sometime soon?
Not anytime soon.
Okay.
I'm going to do my best to try and not die, but yeah, basically you just get stuck on a medical cart and dumped back off to start it all over again.
Yeah, they dump you off in a camp, throw you off unceremoniously. That's what happens to the hunters who don't pay attention to the rules.
And if you're doing an expedition, you can die unlimited times, so...
Is that another tip to do more expeditions? Sounds like it.
Well, there is some stuff I will have to show off from expeditions. I'm actually waiting until we can get into those upper tree parts. There's more of that click-click going on.
Now, I will say there is a part of a combo you can do a reload in the middle of. You've seen him do it a couple times. It's a combo where you sweep your arm out to the side with the spear. When you do that, you can actually very quickly automatically reload your weapon. It's kind of like a snap to the sides very fast, but it's, again, something you have to learn and practice the time of.
And that won't reload my wyvern spear either. It only reloads my bullets.
That's correct. And that spear is a good weapon, especially on somebody like Bharath where we only get so many chances to hit.
And something like that will go through his armored head. I can just lodge it in there, have it damage him slowly, and then explode.
So I will say one thing about Bharath, this is pretty fast to get him in this weak of a state. And that is because the power of this weapon is extremely high. It is quite powerful if you get a lot of your hits off, even if it is dangerous to use due to the slowness of it and the need to reload.
Yes, all those armor-piercing bullets and whatnot have been very handy for that. And one thing I should preface this bit is, so the game has done a crossover with various other games, including Final Fantasy. And it took me a second to realize what was going on here, but yeah. One of the crossovers put cactuars in the area, and he just charged right into it as it did its final blast.
Okay.
The cactuars do 100 damage for each tick and end with 1,000.
Now they don't care about armor at all.
And considering Bharath was already injured, that was pretty brutal for him to walk into.
So we're going to say you didn't earn that one. That was stolen from you. Clear kill steal.
I still get to carve them.
And it doesn't matter who does what. I will say when you play online with other players, it doesn't matter who kills the monster. In fact, help your players, support them. It's very much a team environment because the number of carves you get off a monster is the same no matter what, even if you don't participate. So make sure you participate or other players will be very annoyed with you.
This area right here is one of the more lush environments in the Wildspire Wastes. I just missed skinning the Gajau there, but I will show it off next episode what we get from skinning it. And if you watched my episode 0, you'll probably recognize some of this
Glad you're
cutscene.
back. Oh, don't worry. I found a safe place for the scholars to hide.
I'm sure she's very comfortable in all
I
that
guess
winter
I'll go
gear
round
here.
them up. Wait for us back at camp.
You there. Are you part of the Fifth Fleet? Then that means the Elder Crossing is upon us again. The years fly by faster than I can count them. I too am a hunter of the First Fleet. Might I trouble you to share your tale with me? Let's find a suitable place.
I do find it interesting our helmet doesn't actually have eye holes in the eye, so I'm not sure what we're looking out of.
Yeah, you're just sniffing everything. You got a good sense of smell.
We're Daredevil and just sonaring everything.
So, my old friends are well.
We'll go with that. That sounds fair.
It sounds like
It is a
the
Capcom game, so why not?
As incorrigible as ever. Might I ask, are you tracking the monster that dropped that massive slag?
That massive poop.
They haven't actually done a crossover with Marvel.
It seems so easy.
Maybe one day.
Follow the trail,
There
find
is a crossover suit of armor, but we actually don't have access to it on the PC.
Really? I wasn't aware of that.
It's been a pleasure.
Yes, one of
Nearby you
the
will find
main
my
characters
friends,
from Street
trust
Fighter
will be of
is
some
a
avail
crossover outfit.
to you and the others.
Actually, I think there's two, if that's the case. There's also a outfit for... There's Ryu and Sakura. I'm pretty sure you can get both of their
But a
outfits.
force
I
compels
believe
no
so.
one,
And
I
they're
intend
quite
to
good,
see where
but
it takes
sadly
me.
we don't get access. One of the very big problems with playing on PC is that we don't get all those really cool armors they do on PlayStation.
All this.
Yeah, there was a Horizon Zero Dawn armor, actually, that I got on PlayStation, and you could actually make your Palico look like a little robot dinosaur.
The Palico armors for some of those crossovers are kind of the best part, I find.
Was that who I think it was?
But I feel like we were supposed to know who that was beforehand.
For as important a person as the first Wyverian is, we really don't see him too much. And he even says, like, when everything's done, we'll see each other again. And then he kind of just shows up to say, congratulations.
Good to see you.
At least he holds out to his word. Now we're getting more information about Zora Magdaros at this point.
Okay.
But we're not done helping out all those people we just escorted. One got lost, and we get a very important clue about Zora from the next
Wildspire Wastes
episode.
immediately.
It's actually the first Wyverian's camp we're taking over there, too, so he does help us out a fair bit just by giving us a place to use as a base of operations.
Well, I'm pleased with how that Bharath fight ended. Got to talk about a bunch of different mechanics and really show, like you said, the potential of the gun lance and the weaknesses.
Next episode, I'll be changing over to a new weapon, so I hope everyone enjoys seeing that.
Ooh, any secrets about what it might be, or are we just going to have to wait and see?
Well, I'm aiming to do the other lance, so...
Oh.
Your favorite.
My absolute favorite, yes.
Well, I hope everyone joins me for that one. And take care, all.